Hey there, Canvas family. Travis here, and I want to be the first to say Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas from the Canvas family to you. I hope that you're taking some time to rest and to recenter, and of course to remember what the Christmas season is all about. I love Christmas, but one of the things I love the most is Christmas Eve. Because I get to carry out one of my favorite traditions that I've been doing ever since I was a kid. Do you have any Christmas or Christmas Eve traditions? Go ahead and drop it in the comments below and let us know. But have you ever had a tradition that you thought everyone obviously did, and then you shared this tradition to just learn that actually no one did it, it was unique to you? I have one of those, and I thought it was totally normal, a beautiful tradition, until I got married, and I told Jenna, this is sort of the thing I do, don't you do this? And she was like, no, I don't do that. In fact, that's a weird tradition. And what is my tradition? My tradition is on Christmas Eve, ever since I was a kid. Every single Christmas Eve, we have shrimp and we have root beer. I know, I can feel you judging my tradition through the screen, but I really thought this was normal until I got married. And Jenna was like, why shrimp and root beer? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense, but it's my tradition, so step off, all right? It's my thing, right? I love it. I love eating some shrimp and washing it down with root beer, and Christmas cannot begin until those two things happen for me. How about you? What are some of your traditions? Or maybe this year you need to make some new traditions. I love that part of Christmas, and I hope that you're able to do that with some family and friends and loved ones as we remember what Christmas is all about. I mean, there are so many things about Christmas that I love. Right? I love the music. I love the decorations. I love the Christmas Netflix movies that are just so terrible that you can't stop watching. And I've seen quite a few this year. They're really, really bad. But one of the things that I love the most about Christmas, by far, is Christmas lights. Every year, Jenna and Finley and I will drive around trying to find the best Christmas lights. And one day, if I'm honest, I hope to be able to own a home. I mean, don't we all want to own a home? But the real reason I want to own a home is so that on Christmas, I can just deck out that house with lights and just illuminate our neighborhood. I will be that guy if I ever own a home, and it will be glorious. But can you imagine Christmas without Christmas lights? I mean, I think there's some Christmassy things that you could lose and yet not lose Christmas, right? I think you could lose eggnog and not lose Christmas. And if you love eggnog, I'm sorry, it's disgusting. You could lose eggnog and have Christmas. I think you could even lose stockings and still have Christmas. And I know this might be blasphemy, but I think you could even lose the song All I Want for Christmas by Mariah Carey and still have Christmas. In fact, some of you are like, I wish we would lose that song, right? But can you even imagine Christmas without Christmas lights? How do you have Christmas without Christmas lights? And maybe this is the case because all of us have been raised to see Christmas lights during Christmas. But maybe it's because deep down, when we see these glowing and twinkling lights that illuminate the darkness, maybe we see it as a symbol of what the whole Christmas story is even about. That Christmas is about a God who would love people so much that he would step into the darkness of God's good world that we as humans had vandalized. And this God would become a light that illuminates a path for all people to return to the heart and to the love of God. In fact, this is what the Apostle John talks about in his gospel book, the book of John. And in John chapter 1, verse 4, he talks about the first Christmas light. And it's in John 1:4 that John writes, the Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. And of course, John here, he's talking about Jesus. You see, maybe the reason that you can't have Christmas without Christmas lights is because if you lose Christmas lights, you lose one of these central icons that point us to what the whole story is about. God illuminating darkness with light. And this is the hope of Isaiah's prophecy in the Hebrew scriptures in the book of Isaiah chapter 9. A little bit of context. Israel, yet again, if you know their story, this is nothing new, they find themselves stumbling in the darkness, except this time they had fallen into exile in Babylon for the next 70 years. And it's in this dark moment that God speaks and begins to illuminate a path forward and reveal that through the birth of Jesus, that a plan for restoration was being set into motion. Can I encourage you today that if you feel like you're not where you want to be, not where you thought you would be, and you want to get out as soon as possible, I feel like somebody watching this today, you need to know that God has a plan and it's already set into motion. Maybe you just need to write that down and say that to yourself right now. God has a plan, and that plan is already being set into motion. But back to the story. When Jesus' birth is being foreshadowed, God describes Jesus with 4 names that would really tell us what Jesus is all about and what he came to do. And those 4 names in Isaiah are Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. And I wonder if it was maybe that last name, Prince of Peace, that would have been the most difficult for Israel to believe or even accept, considering their circumstances. I mean, would you believe that God is the Prince of Peace if you were being taken captive by others and you were stuck in captivity for 70 years? I mean, would you believe that God is the Prince of Peace if the temple, which was central to the Jewish people, had been turned into rubble? And would you believe that God really was a Prince of Peace while you saw your parents praying for freedom and they would never receive it? I don't know about you, but I would struggle to believe that God is a Prince of Peace if I found myself in that situation. See, maybe the reason God saved this name for last is because he knew that would be what they would need the most, peace. Maybe the reason that God tells us that Jesus would be the Prince of Peace is because God knew that this life would be full of problems, that this life you would experience pain. And maybe that's what you need the most this Christmas as well. Maybe what you need the most is peace. Like if you're honest right now, would you say that your life is full of peace? If you described your current state of life, state of being, would you describe it as overflowing with peace? And maybe the even better question is, can we have a life full of peace when the world is anything but peaceful? Is peace always contingent on my circumstances, or is there a version of peace that is possible that is so deeply grounded that it stands firm even when the storms of life rage around me? And I wonder if the Christmas story itself is maybe an answer to that question that we have. When Jesus came to this earth, he did not come looking like a deliverer. He came looking like a dependent. When Jesus came to this earth, he did not show up in power. He showed up in Pampers. You know, maybe the reason that the Prince of Peace came into this world the way that he did is because God wanted us to know that it is in our most vulnerable and most unlikely places that we can experience deep, real peace. Maybe God did this because God knew we might be tempted to believe that peace can only be present if things in our life are perfect. But the thing is, you and I both know that's not true, right? Like deep down at least, you know that peace is not contingent on your circumstances. Like you could have money and fame and respect and talent. You could have all the things that everyone says you need to have and yet still not have peace. I mean, how many more celebrities do we need to see that have everything on the outside looking in? They have everything that you would imagine a person would want. And then we later find out that they were lonely and without peace. See, if perfection is the prerequisite for peace, then none of us have any hope for peace. See, peace does not come when we no longer have problems, but peace comes when we have something or maybe someone present with us that is greater than the problems that we face. And so what if Christmas is showing us where real, sustainable, enduring peace can be found? While the world is looking for something to give them peace, Christmas tells us that peace won't be found in something but someone, and that someone is Jesus. Christmas is telling us that peace is not found in the absence of problems, but it is found in the real presence of Jesus. And I love the word shalom, which is translated as peace. You might have heard that word or said that word, and maybe you just thought it just meant peace, but it's really bigger than that. Shalom is this idea of wholeness and completeness in the deepest possible sense. When it comes to peace, we tend to think that it's this thing that's accomplished from the outside in, but the peace that shalom describes is something that happens from the inside out. That as you experience peace within you, you begin to experience peace no matter what's going on around you. And that's where another dimension of peace comes into play. The Bible was written primarily in Hebrew and Greek, and the Greek equivalent for the word shalom is the Greek word eirene. And this word peace means to tie up loose ends together into the whole. This picture of peace sort of connotes a picture of God weaving together all of life's frayed edges, sort of like a frayed rope, weaving each part back in as a part of the whole. When Isaiah claimed that Jesus would be the Prince of Peace, it's like he was claiming that Jesus would be the grand weaver of all of our lives. And God was promising that the Messiah would rule over our lives, and not in a way necessarily that prevents all harm or evil from taking place, but in a way that takes the fragmented pieces and divinely places them as a part of the marvelous mosaic of our lives that God is creating. We need a Prince of Peace, but not to prevent all of life's storms, but to bind together all of life's loose ends. This reminds me of what the Apostle Paul wrote in Romans 8, verse 28. Paul, he wrote that, and we know that for those who love God, all things, go ahead and say that out loud, all things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose. This God at work in all things is none other than the Prince of Peace, the grand weaver of our lives and our souls, who makes you whole and complete. And the way this God does it is by graciously and lovingly weaving together all of our frayed edges again. So can I ask you something? Right now, where do you feel like your life is frayed? Where in your life do you feel like you're unraveling? Maybe unraveling in your marriage or relationship, or maybe unraveling in your mental health, or maybe unraveling in your faith. Where do you long for shalom? See, Christmas is not a promise that you will have a life without problems, but it is a promise that you can still have a life with peace in the midst of problems. It's a promise that even in your most fragile moments, peace can be birthed there. It's a promise that God knows what to do with your frayed edges, and wherever you're unraveling, God can put all those loose ends back together. And it's the mysterious promise that even when you feel surrounded by darkness, Christmas is a reminder that the light of peace can meet you right there and illuminate your next step. And so I want you to take a moment and allow the words from Zechariah as he speaks about the birth of Christ in Luke 1. Maybe even close your eyes and allow the words of Zechariah to be spoken over your life and over where you feel the least at peace. Zechariah says, because of God's tender mercy, the morning light from heaven is about to break upon us, to give light to those who sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, and to guide us to the path of peace. So that's my prayer, Canvas. May the morning light from heaven begin to break upon you this Christmas. And may the light of God illuminate your life and guide you in your next steps. And may the light that comes from the Prince of Peace, may that light guide you on the path of peace. Merry Christmas, Canvas.